Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for January 17th, 2025. Coming up, we got Thunder Cavs 2. Not as good as the first one. Man, not at all. Oh, man. We got the Unrivaled League for women's basketball, and Zena's going to tell us all about that. And we have Joe Vardon to tell us about the Cavs side of their embarrassing loss to the Thunder. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zena. Man, I really I hate to be so disappointed about a sequel, but Cavs Thunder 2 just did not live up to the billing. The first game was game of the year. Second one was the worst game of the Cavs season by a long shot. So we're going to get to the Cavs side of that after our little break with Joe Vardon, because he's in the arena and, you know, he's the voice of the Cavs for us. So Zena, I got to talk about the Thunder. They are something else. They just tied the Cleveland Cavaliers by winning the game last night in convincing fashion. They tied them for the best record in the league. They're now 34-6. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander puts up 40 in 30 minutes. They're the best team in basketball.
Yeah, and OKC deserves all of the esteem. Their play tonight was not only dominant, it was good. It's the type of game tape that you show young kids on how you should play defense, how you should play in transition, how you should play as a team. And they officially put the Cavs in a position to prove that their win over OKC just a week ago was not a fluke. They have depth. I mean, you saw Brandon Carlson, some undrafted rookie out of Utah, come in the first quarter and immediately give some buckets. You saw OKC have legendary buy-in into their defense, into playing fast and responsible. They made the Cavs have to force threes up. This is the Cavs that have played an inside-out game all year long, and they made them look like they couldn't win shell defense drills in practice. Like, it was tough for the Cavs to be able to find buckets inside, and OKC, good on them for showing up in this game and getting that revenge win.
Yeah, OKC created 21 turnovers, and we keep saying, I stole this from Andrew Schlecht, that this is the most disruptive defense in NBA history. And I mean, they did that to the Cavs, who are pretty good at protecting the basketball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in my opinion, all he has to do is maintain pace here. I think he wrapped up the MVP with this performance. Again, it's on national TV. This stuff matters quite a bit. And to put up 40 in 3 quarters, that's a dominance that, you know, we think about when Steph Curry was doing this in his unanimous season, where he was unanimous MVP. That's this is the stuff that stands out when you're going to vote come May or April.
Absolutely. There's a really cool account on X, OKC Thunder Stats, and they do these like random assessments of stats that the current OKC Thunder have in comparison to former players. As of last night's game against the Cavs, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now has more 30-point performances in his career than Paul George. And we just took time a few weeks ago to talk to Marcus Thompson about games we like to watch, right? Games that mesmerize you. And when you have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander performing in this way amidst the team performance that is OKC, and he still stands out, that shows you just how much of an impact that he makes offensively and how much his game is different than anything else we're seeing in the league. Yes, I think he absolutely is MVP. And if anything, he is now sitting in a seat where someone has to come and take it from him, as opposed to him having to fight for it from someone else.
Yeah, and the Thunder have such a big lead in the West that at this point, it looks like they're going to be the 1 seed. Yeah. By the way, I didn't even mention, they didn't have Hartenstein for this game, right? So Isaiah Hartenstein, like, this is a team that has not been healthy all year. They were down their starting big man, of course, Chet Holmgren not out there, and they're playing a team that has 2 high quality bigs in Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and it didn't really matter for them. And I think a big part of that is Jalen Williams, because his ability to kind of play up. I mean, he had a foul very early in this game, and you start thinking, could be a long night around the basket, but I mean, they were excellent. Jalen puts up 19, has 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, continues to kind of be this it's not a Swiss Army knife because he's more like a Leatherman, right? It's like an adult's Swiss Army knife that actually has real tools. I mean, he's putting up not only I think a strong case for All-Star. This might be a guy when all this stuff starts shaking out in award season and you start looking at the guys who qualify because of the 65 game rule. I mean, it's not out of the question that Jalen Williams might be an all NBA guy, not just All-Star.
I agree with you. First of all, Dave, were you a Boy Scout pulling out Leatherman?
I mean, that's pretty impressive. They wish. Okay. Yeah. Those guys aren't hardcore enough for me.
Wait, but that's a perfect analogy. Just and I'm talking about Jalen Williams, like unbelievable player and defender. And when you're talking about a team that has such team contribution is so high, there's so much talent on every corner of this team. Individual performances like what J-Dub puts up every night can kind of be overshadowed because you're looking at it as, oh, this is just the product of everyone contributing, everyone buying in on defense, everyone buying in on offense. But what Jalen Williams has done this year is undeniable. He's improved in almost every statistical category of his game. He's better in points per game. He's better in rebounds per game, assists per game, 3-pointers made per game, free throws made per game. He's getting to the line more. The only reason that his shot statistics in terms of his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage have gone down is because he's taking more shots. He's taken on more of a burden in this offense. All year long, we've been talking about Cleveland being this two-headed snake. And it's because when you compare Cleveland to OKC feels like a 5-headed snake. Everyone's contributing. But when you really look at it, Jalen Williams alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander absolutely is probably one of the most lethal because both of them play offense incredibly well, but also they lead with their defense. I mean, this is what allows OKC to get teams caught up and get caught up early in games. They punch hard offensively and defensively. The last thing I'll say about Jalen Williams when it comes to being an all-star, the factor that's going to get him there, not necessarily an all-star starter, but an all-star reserve, is this Draymond Green-esque defense. He can guard 1 through 5. He can be a person that if Lou Dort's out because of fouls or Alex Caruso's hurt because of his hip injuries and things that sort, he can be put on your hardest opponent assignment. I think that to deny him an all-star position, going from rising star last year to now all-star, would be a disservice to what basketball should look like. And that's what Jalen Williams plays.
Yeah. In addition to these guys making the Cavs look like a slice of 5-day-old pizza, Lou Dort hit 6 threes in the game and passed Larry Bird on the all-time made 3-pointers list.
And that just not compute.
Kind of messes with my basketball heart a little bit. This is the juiced ball era of 3-pointers. And so we should just all be used to this. But hey, Lou Dort, man, that is a success story. Him passing Larry Bird on the all-time 3-pointer list is actually
mostly
very
on like
cool
kick out threes.
And I saw this guy when he was heading into college and his jump shot. And I'm telling you, this guy worked very hard to get there. In other news, Zena, listen, a lot of people may not know this. If you guys aren't women's basketball fans, maybe you are and you didn't realize it, but Zena is the host of the Athletic Women's Basketball Show.
Yes, I am.
I mean, wears a lot of hats. I mean, I'm telling you guys, she's watching women's college basketball film, all this NBA stuff, and then pretty soon we got WNBA coming up. But it seems like they are hell-bent on adding more work to your schedule because the ladies from the WNBA got together and started their own league, Unrivaled. They're going to start tonight. I'm very curious to see how it goes. First, can you tell me about the podcast? Because I'm plugging this pod. And then also tell me about Unrivaled and like, should I check this thing out? Like, should the WNBA be worried that they've got competition from inside the house? You know, like, I mean, what's this going to be like?
Well, first, let's get to the show. Comes out every Tuesday morning and Friday morning. So I love on Fridays. You hear me on NBA and you hear me on the Women's Basketball Show. But Unrivaled, such a smart product, launched by Brianna Stewart and Afisa Collier, well-known players within the league, but also players that were tired of going overseas in order to get developed. And the thing about it is Brianna Stewart even said this about Unrivaled. Like the whole premise around this league is a 3-on-3 league that's set to launch in Miami tonight. And the whole premise is player development. give these WNBA players a space in which they can focus on their skills and really hammer in some of those aspects of the game that you're not going to get in the 5-on-5 space. Because in a 5-by-5 game, some players' skills aren't going to be utilized. Right. They're going to be hidden a little bit. When you're on 3-on-3, you're constantly doing triangle type of pick and roll, ISO things, triangle type of offenses. You're working on the skills that you then can bring to the 5-on-5 WNBA game. There's so many aspects of this league that have nothing to do with the basketball aspect, but are helpful. The fact that, Angel Reese just tweeted that they've got, so the Sephora deal. So they have this amazing media day. They have childcare. They have facials that they can get. They have unbelievable gym and conditioning workouts and all these different things and access to all these resources that they don't typically have in the off season or have to pay an egregious amount of money to be able to do that. So they've done a really great job of launching something that is attractive for WNBA players. They have a star-studded roster. So people are going to want to tune in. This is the best of the best in the WNBA going up against each other. And you're going to see everyone get reps. It's only three people on a court. So they're going up and down. There's going to be great conditioning. A lot of one-on-one skill work is going to happen. And really cool thing about this league, the players also get equity in this league, which is not something they see in the WNBA. Unrivaled overall hopes to be something that is additive to the WNBA. The people behind it are all player development folks, people that really focus on getting the players better. So they want to see it as the WNBA leans on them to get players in better positions.
Well, part of the reason why this is so relevant beyond the fact that it actually starts tonight is that we heard today or yesterday that Maverick Carter, who's business partners with LeBron James, and LeBron are looking for a $5 billion investment in some international league that they would like to start with, some sort of a barnstorming league, which again looks like a little bit of a copy of Unrivaled, but seems like they want to tour the world in a model similar to like Formula One. Now, to me, I don't think that this works the same for the guys because number one, they have an overexposure problem as it is. The NBA plays 82 games. We can't even get these guys. We had to set a rule of 65 games just to get these guys to participate a little bit more. And they have an effort issue in their sport, which the WNBA does not. Every regular season WNBA game feels like it matters when you're watching. They play hard the whole time. Yeah. I did not. All summer long, I watched WNBA every Sunday, and I didn't see anyone taking plays up. There's a real difference, I think, with NBA players doing something like this and the W. And it's not just, does it make sense financially? Everyone, of course, they would make money on it somehow. But for me, I think that they would take away from the NBA because part of what the NBA has is these guys. And if they're out doing their own thing, the NBA is not going to be happy about it. But we already see these guys all the time. So I don't know that the NBA guys can pull it off in the same way, but I'm excited to see what the ladies do. And again, stay in the States and play basketball and especially during basketball season, I think it'll help them out. What do you think like the outcome of this is? Is this like a one-off or is this going to be just a co-league that runs, during the off season from here on out?
Well, it definitely won't be a one-off. They already signed a multi-year marquee media rights deal with TNT Sports. So if TNT is expecting it to work for more than 1 year, it's definitely going to be in the works. But again, with them, you hit it on the nail, like why this won't work as smoothly, in my opinion, and yours for the NBA. The NBA takes up all the time. They've got 82 games, right? Whereas the WNBA it's 40. So it's like, it's not as many games. They do need time to fill in that offseason. And so it's going to work a little bit more differently there. And again, the leaders of this organization, Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Alex Bizzell, which is Collier's husband, and Luke Cooper, the president of basketball operations, they've all said they want this to be additive to the WNBA. And by the way, I almost forgot, definitely tune into the podcast. But if you're on the site, Sabrina Merchant has written about this extensively, Ben Pickman as well. They have covered this. They're going to be covering this league really well in the written form. So definitely tap in for that.
Absolutely. We have the best women's basketball coverage that you can find anywhere. Also, Mark Schindler's back doing bracketology. So go and check that out here soon, too. Guys, stick around after the break. We got Joe Vardon to tell us why the Cavs are sad. Again, with a poor sequel, Thunder Cavs 2 was not what we expected. Joe Vardon was in the house for the game. Joe, that was kind of an embarrassing loss for the Cavaliers. It's definitely their worst game of the season. Is this just a one-off, or do we look at this game and the Pacers game a few days ago and say maybe some teams are starting to catch up to what bothers the Cavs?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, they've lost 2 out of their last 3, and they were blowouts. And whatever the final score was tonight, I think it was a 20-point game. It was 42 in the third quarter. I mean, this was a, depancing, whatever you want to say.
Ooh,
it was
that's
awful. There was nothing the Cavs did well. No one really showed up. Darius was okay in the second quarter, but I mean, by then it was already, I think, a 26-point game really when Darius kind of joined the fray. So it's, on the one hand, it's you just kind of crumbled up and throw it away. But if you look now, they've lost 6 times, which is not that much out of 40. But in all 6 losses, it has come to a team that is bigger and stronger on the perimeter than what they have. And that is becoming an issue. And it's like, you want to say, well, do you make that big of a deal out of it because that kind of defense bothers everybody? The Thunder bother everybody. Lou Dort, who has just wreaked havoc on the Cavs these 2 games, he certainly bothers everybody. But for a team that's otherwise looks pretty deep and looks like they're able to make a long run, they have been cut down to size when they play against teams that are bigger on the perimeter than they are.
What was the overall sentiment following this game? I mean, we can sit here and say that, is this a game to get concerned for the Cavs? But sometimes teams are like, you got to rip the box score up. We're not too worried about that one. What was the general sentiment from the team after the game?
To crumble it up and throw it away. I mean, they weren't impressed. It was a very quiet room. Neither Donovan nor Darius, you speak differently when you win or on a game where like you really can just shrug your shoulders and say, let's get them next time. This was a national TV game. It was a rematch. There was a lot going into it, and they just laid an egg. So, they understand that they have to be better. And, I hate to talk about physicality because I almost think it's a cliche when we're talking about the playoffs. Of course, the level of how you play raises, and what the officials allow goes up in playoff basketball. And the Cavs have struggled with that over the last 2 years for sure. But they were speaking as though they understood that they cannot be pushed off of their cuts and pushed off the line and not be allowed to get into the paint. All the things they do that have made them the number 1 offense in the league. When they see a Dort and a Caruso in Oklahoma City, or Nembhard and Mathurin with the Pacers, or Daniels and Johnson with the Hawks, it hasn't been good. And, they can say that they're just going to be better, and that's great. They need to be, but it is a little bit of a concern, because when you think about what has gotten them in the playoffs, and then you've seen it in this very small handful of games in the regular season that they actually lose, the reason is the same.
Yeah. Ball pressure, physicality, it's really been bothering them. On the other end, though, the Thunder were able to just get to the paint pretty much at will. This defense has been decent. With Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, you're always going to have some point of attack issues. But this was, to me, eye-opening, just how easy of a time the Thunder, and especially Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, had getting into the paint and putting pressure on the rim. What do they do about that going forward?
Yeah. They've been, the Cavs were 9th, I think, in defense. And Darius has, Kenny reiterated again before today's game that they are not hiding him the way that past Cavs teams used to do that. Like, Darius takes on the matchup. He's not going to guard Shai. That's the Cavs are going to put either a Coro, or they use Dean. You didn't see that much of Mobley there. Maybe you should have. But yeah, I mean, point of attack is that's another concern. Darius told me tonight that he's 25 pounds heavier than he was last year. So that's a good thing.
Yes.
That's a good thing. That will, yeah. I mean, and Donovan is thick too. So strength wise, you feel like they should be better at the point of attack, But, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a bona fide perennial MVP candidate who's averaging like 32 a game or whatever it is. And there's just going to be nights where you're not going to stop him. And tonight was one of those nights, like he just was gliding to the rim. And it helps when the Thunder knocked down threes. I think they had 18 threes tonight. So it was just a recipe for disaster. Kenny called it an avalanche, and that's what it was.
It's interesting. We talk about being able to get into the paint. They were actually even in paint points, which was surprising. And yeah, the final score, 134-114. But it makes you think, okay, even in paint points, not ridiculously out-rebounded, there was a differential with three-pointers, particularly them not being able to get theirs off as much and also not being great at the line. But I'm now wondering, if you're throwing away the box score and you're looking to the rest of the season, how do you bounce back from this game? How do you make this game look insignificant in the grand scheme of the season, to say this was a fluke rather than looking at last week's win against OKC as the fluke?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It's a great question. This is, as I mentioned earlier, they've lost 2 out of 3. Earlier this year, those 2 losses to the Hawks were back to back. So they've been in a situation like this before and bounced back before. The way you do it is you go into Minneapolis on Saturday night. I mean, things aren't working out like the Timberwolves had planned, but they're still a very dangerous team. They're at home. And, this is a way for the Cavs to finish off what we knew would be a tough road trip, and we knew it would be a dangerous week. It's proven to be that, but you can set yourself back, on a much better path just by winning Saturday.
Yeah. One of the big storylines for the Cavs has just been the continuity and chemistry. So many of the same faces have been around for a while. They're not a perfect basketball team because one does not exist in the NBA. Like, I don't think we have a clear-cut favorite right now, in my opinion, with the way everyone's playing. I think the Thunder would be, but even they're not perfect when you think about their health. Is there a move for the Cavs to make, or do you expect them to be in on some guys that, or maybe some names we keep hearing as we approach the deadline? Because this is a team that has a chance at a title. I mean, I'm of the opinion they should be trying to strike right now and get a guy to take them over the top.
Well, they don't have a ton of assets, and their draft capital is, I don't want to say suspect. They have a treasure trove of second round picks, but they don't really have a first round pick that they can move until like 2030 or 2031. So you have to keep that in mind when I say the following, that multiple teams throughout the league have said the Cavs are expressing interest in Cam Johnson. They wouldn't be the only team. There are other suitors who potentially could offer more, but the Cavs do have a combination of players and picks that could match the money and would give a rebuilding team in Brooklyn the kinds of picks that you can use to turn into better picks. And so, in Cam, I don't have his exact height in front of me, but he's tall. He's bigger. He's a perimeter shooter. He's an athlete. He's not the best defender, and that's an issue. But if you talk about what is the thing that bothers the Cavs, we've spent all this time talking about it tonight. Cam's the answer. Yeah. So, this is something that has been emerging over the last week. That the Cavs are among the teams, who are interested in him.
6'8", 210.
There you go.
There you go.
That's
shoots outside.
That's tight end,
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, as far as I'm concerned, like, everyone in the league should be in on Cam Johnson. So I'm not surprised. But I mean, the Cavaliers, again, if they can add Cam, it does solve so many problems for them. Joe, appreciate you so much. By the way, go and read the piece that he just wrote, where he talks about Evan Mobley being compared to Kevin Garnett and some of the things that people had to say about that. I read that earlier today, and I was thinking about that when I was watching the game. I think we could have used a little bit more Garnett and Mobley against the Thunder.
Or Horford or anybody. I think this was Evan's worst game of the year.
I mean, hey, a lot of Cavs had their worst game of the year, and this night, let's just hope that was the worst game of the year. For Joe Vardon and Zena Keita, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Appreciate you guys listening. Go and subscribe to the YouTube. Leave some comments. I mean, the pizza thing was just hilarious yesterday, so thank you guys for that. Thanks for waking up with us.